Hello, my name is Ismina Lakhani, and I'm a family counsellor for the Alberta Health Services Pregnancy and Infant Loss Program. After the loss of a baby, everyone grieves differently. In this video, parents talk about their grief and the grief of their family members. Grief journeys can be very different, even between parents. Initially, parents may feel very close to one another. Then, they may feel no one understands them. Many things can impact your grief journey, like gender, culture, and family dynamics.
Literally a week ago, I was online looking at a stroller, and now I have no baby. So I think that was tough, is then when it starts to really hit you. So you're dealing then with the emotional part, and then for me it was the physical part healing too. The physical part was almost the easier part. That part, in a week or two, I was physically I was feeling better. Mentally, I don't know if I can ever say it's ever gonna be it took a few months before then I was it was easier for me to talk about it, but I still am not in a position to ever if I talk about it, I cry. It's just, that is the reality at this point.
Well, when it first happened, we were on the same page. We were very supportive of each other. But then came a time where we were grieving differently. And I feel like that's really important to know, that not everybody grieves the same way, even though we're both of us being parents, losing the same child, we grieved very differently. It came to a point where we just started accepting that this is how I grieve and this is how you grieve. And we tried supporting each other in that way. I think it's very important to know that there needs to be a mutual understanding, respect for each other, because not both parents are going to grieve the same way. But it doesn't mean that if one isn't expressing or talking about it, that they're not grieving. And eventually, as time goes on, I feel like you come back to that same page. But it does take time.
I just start a new job, and I have to be very rational, very calm. I have to handle my new job, and at the same time, I have to handle her emotion. I have to be strong. So it doesn't matter what gender you are. So be strong is to be strong.
I get to learn that we're both going to grieve differently, right? But we also have to communicate, because that's the only one person that you went through the process with that understand what went happen, what went wrong. For most of those things, I was unconscious, but then guess who had to hold those babies? It was him. So I know that the trauma doesn't only extend to me, extend to him too.
Yeah, in terms of kind of the grief that sort of pops up. Sometimes music, there's certain songs that I would listen to, not really with any intention. They're just songs I was listening to a lot when I was pregnant. And so sometimes I'll hear those, and there is a very powerful association of where I was at last time I was listening to the song and what I thought my life was going to be.
Certain smells, because they were just associated to that day. And at that point and at that time, it was simple things. It was like walking past something as simple as Toys R Us and seeing a whole section with strollers.
Or even commercials, I think.
Commercials were really hard. Yeah.
You turn on the TV and you see diaper commercials or Toys R Us commercials. That back then we used to get those flyers at home. You would open them up and they'd have all these baby things, and eventually there's triggers all over the place.
And one of my friends had to go for surgery at that hospital, and I haven't been near that hospital since. And I'm like, I don't think I can take you. I actually don't know if I can do it. And I'm like, I remember talking to my therapist, and she's like, that's normal. Like you had a very traumatic experience. Like this isn't because I'm like, I'm crazy. Like I can't, the idea of like walking in that hospital terrifies me because there's all this stuff that comes up in places like you would never think. And I don't think, myself included, like people realize that a miscarriage isn't just a miscarriage. It's all this, like, you've lost a child, and it's all this stuff that comes up after that you can't even prepare for. Like, it just kind of pops up.
It was not easy. It was actually his idea to push us to do the counseling because I just was done. I was not interested in any of it at that time.
It was important to me that we start counseling very early on. So we kind of had our first counseling session probably 2 or 3 weeks after the loss. And I think that was really, really important as well for both of us to, to have that conversation and to sort of see where we were at in that way.
And I'll be honest, initially I thought we'd do it. I thought it would help Jasmine more than me. We went, and once again, we were 2 different places at that point, and I just had to talk to someone about something. And like I was like, it was my baby, and she was gone, and I didn't know what to do. And so I ended up going to the counseling, and that felt weird for me to be doing that for a long time, to go by myself. You had asked me before if that, I would have thought that was all nonsense, to be honest with you, but there's something about being around people who understand what you're feeling, and so as difficult as it is to be vulnerable in front of strangers and talk to people about what you're going through, I can see how it's very helpful for people.
It's not me. I just can't go out in a group, and even though all these other parents have gone through a similar situation, and just sit there and talk about it and expect them to understand what I'm going through, that's just how I've dealt with it. This is how it's worked for me, and I guess it's more of just how I am as a person. We were just looking for the right time. Mm-hmm. So we did introduce her to her a few years ago, and they were in shock. They were, my older son, when we told him that technically you're the second baby, you would have had an older sister. The first thing he did was he asked what year she was born. Oh, she would have been this old now, and she would have been in this grade. She would have been going to the same school as us. But at the same time, his reaction, he got sad.
He's an emotional boy, and I think just as suddenly, even when he watches movies, he gets very upset. So we knew telling something about this, but he would take it. But we knew we had to. It's obviously something that he had to be aware of.
The thing he said that really stuck with me is, that's so sad I never got to meet her.
Grief is not something you get over. You don't get over burying your kids. You don't get over losing your kids. We managed to put one foot ahead of the other. We managed to cope with it one day at a time. I have my good days. He has his good and bad days. But the most important thing is seeking support. Society thinks that you have to deal with loss alone. But I think that's the biggest mistake. Because I tell friends, when I lost the twins, the amount of friends and coworkers that came up to me to talk about their own loss, I was shocked that we don't discuss it.
Thank you for watching this video. We want to remind you that there are many resources available to you and your support people, including counseling, support groups, and books. You can also talk to friends and family members who have experienced a loss to find out what helped them heal. You can also visit MyHealth.Alberta.ca and search under services for the pregnancy and infant loss program in your area.